I work as a system front-end developer, and probably that's why I'm so in love with this tool, Drush, because it's a command line tool, and it speeds up the site building part and also the development part of Drupal websites. So again, Drush provides a command line interface for administration and configuration of Drupal website, and you can use it on your local host. Very simple. And you can also use it on a server, on a production site. Also, you can access via Drush the remote sites and control it from your local system. So, the command line interface, I assume that you all have used command line. Or if not, I will give you some basic commands. So it's kind of an extension of Drupal, and it has many tools in it, and Drush can be also extended. You can write your own custom commands if you need them, and also you can find on Drupal.org many kind of modules, aliases, which will extend the functionality. So in short, the history of Drush, it was developed by Arthur Drupal 4.7, and in 2007 it was partly written and redesigned for Drupal 5, and the module is now maintained by a group, and it has a very rapid development. So what are the basic command line in Unix? So in Unix, Linux, and OS could be also used, also FreeBSD or any BSD. So if you want to see the content of a folder, you type ls, enter. Of course, if you want to go to the folder or change the path where you are, it's cd. Go one folder back or up is cd space dot dot. To create a new folder or make directory, rename folder, and or move from one to another. It's a way to change its name or change its location. Copy. If you want to copy a folder, you have to add the -r flag for recursive copying. If you want to remove file, of course, you also have to add the -r deleting the folder, because folder always contains something more. And if you want to show the current folder path where you are, it's pwd, print working directory. So, how to use Drush? Drush is not a module in Drupal module way. So it does not participate in user statistics system on Drupal.org. And it gives you a way to do many things with Drupal outside of the browser. Why outside of the browser? For example, you can make complex alias which will run multiple Drush commands and run it once. So you, for example, Drush CC or Drush clean cache, it could run many commands in sequence, but you only type Drush CC. So you don't have to open the browser and click through the menus and click on clear cache and everything. There are several versions of Drupal. So the Drush, several versions of Drush. The Drush 4 works with Drupal 5 only. Drush 5 works with Drupal 6 and 7, and Drush 6, which is not yet released, could be downloaded from the Git repository on Drupal.org, will work with Drupal 8, or currently works with Drupal 8, the development version, and it will also support Drupal 6 and 7. the requirements to run Drush is preferably a Unix-like OS. Drush can be installed on Windows with some limitations. Some of the commands won't work on Windows because of the path, because of the way Windows handles SQL and other things. It needs at least PHP 5.3 with CLI support, command line interface support, and of course an access to command line, which should also be installed on Windows. You do have a bash install for Windows. So the simplest way to install it on Debian and its derivative Ubuntu or other is via get install Drush. The only problem is that in Debian repository and of course in Ubuntu repository there is an old version of Drush, and you should always use the latest stable version because it's rapid development. I think in Debian's repository, Debian stable repository currently is 4.8 or something like that, and the current stable Drush version is 5.8. It's a very big difference. On macOS, it could be installed with Homebrew, and on BSD system via package add. Also, the easiest way on Unix systems to install it is via peer. You can add a custom peer channel via channel discovery, install Drush, and if for some reason the channel discovery fails, you can upgrade your console GitHub and force peer upgrade. Eventually, if you need, you can upgrade all the peer add-ons, and it provides you a very easy way to upgrade your Drush version via upgrade Drush/Drush. You can via peer. You can also install multiple versions of Drush if you need to recreate the environment on a server, perhaps. So some of the command lines that I find handy: Drush status. Drush status gives you an overlook of Drupal installation. So you change the directory to the Drupal install. You type in Drush status. It will give you a Drupal version, which database is used, the database name, database user. You can also the database password and some other useful information. For example, if you're working on a Drupal multi-site installation and you want to see on which site, which multi-site are you working currently, you just type in Drush status, it will give you the information. Then also very frequently used command, Drush download module name. So if you want to install some module, you just type in Drush DL module name, and it will download the module. With Drush and module name, you will enable it. So you don't have to go, for example, enable it through the web interface. And also Drush handles dependencies. For example, if you want to install, if you want to enable Views UI, you download the views and you just type in Drush and enable Views UI. It will ask you, do you wish to enable also views, which is a dependency of Views UI. And if the dependent modules aren't downloaded yet, it will ask you, do you wish to download all the modules and enable subsequently everything that you need to run. Also, there is a Drush disable module, and also a handy PM uninstall. PM is short for project manager. Each Drush command has its long form and short form. For example, the Drush N is short for PM-enable, or Drush DL PM-download. You could also create your own aliases very easily. The PM uninstall will completely remove all the tables from the database that your module created when you enable it. So it will, in a way, reset all your settings for that way. everything that you changed. Probably the only thing that Drush doesn't handle with modules currently is deleting the modules. So when you disable it or uninstall the module, its files will remain inside your installation, so you can manually delete them if you don't move them. Also, there is a hand drush up command. Oh yes, and I forgot the dash select on Drush. Yeah. For example, if you need the development version of views, you could type in drush dl dash select. It will output a list of enabled of the modules version that you can download, and you can select which version you wish to download. By default, it will only download the stable version. Drush up will update the complete Drupal, so the core and also all the contributed modules. If you wish to only update your contributed modules, you have to put in --no--core or drush up, for example, again views. It will only upgrade the views module. Also, there is a handy SQL dump. Drush reads everything from settings PHP. So this is a very easy way to back up your SQL database. And also you could dump it in a zip compressed archive. So you're changing something on your database, you just dump a backup, you change or experiment something else, and you want to go back one step, you can easily import your backup database with SQL-CLI, SQL command line interface. Also, if you put only SQL.CLI without the database name, it will automatically open for you a MySQL or PostgreSQL prompt. And the command that's, I think, mostly used is drushcc or clean cache. Here it will clear all the cache. If you put in only drushcc, it will give you a list of possible caches to clear. So if you want to clear only the key registry or only CSS files or only JavaScript. There is a very big list of available commands in drush.ys, or you could, from the command line, read the so-called manual pages, drush help. If you need to find a help for a specific command, you just put in drush help the command name. Also, you can generate a printable HTML document with all the available drush commands. And there you can also download a very handy Drush cheat sheet in PDF format. Well, yes, I talked about this already. So Drush auto detects the appropriate site from directory context and releases configuration file from there. So if your command line shows a Drupal site swap, it will read the default site settings. PHP. If you have a multi-site, you can just change the folder in which you run the drush command. It will change which site it handles. Some modules provide drush commands. These become available automatically and are listed when you run drush help. You can, if you develop modules, you can also add support for drush commands. There are many interesting tutorials about that. So, for example, if you use the devel module, you could generate menus, terms, users, vocabularies from the command line. And I've put in an example. So, generate content. So this command will create 10 blog posts and pages with maximum 5 comments. You could also use this command, this long command, and make an alias, a bash alias out of it. I will show you later an example of a very long command. Also the features module, I don't know if you are using the features module. Simply put it helps you export settings and changes in your database to a module, which can be then transferred to another site, enable the module, and all the edits on your database will be applied there. So you export your changes to a file from a database. I prefer to use features module from the command line because it's much faster. When you, for example, open the features page in your Drupal, it will query all the features on your database and check if and what is the status of those edits. So if there are some new edits, if the edits that you applied are overridden or not. And from command line you can choose which feature to check, which feature to enable. So it's much faster. Of course, you can print out the difference between your current feature and new feature and check if there are some edits that you would like to apply. So why would the designer team or site builder want to use tools for hardware developers? So here we can see an example. How would you enable and install the views? So first, open a web browser, download the project from Drupal.org, expand the tarball, put it in your file system, put it on a Drupal installation, go back to the browser, find the module on the big list, and click enable. So check enable and click save. Here are three commands, three easy commands that will do the same, but for much less time. So you just change path to your Drupal install, the views, and you're done. So if you want to interact with remote sites, you need to have access to secure shell, generate secure shell keys, and user sync. So what is secure shell? In a way, in an oversimplified way, secure shell gives you a tunnel between two hosts. That tunnel is encrypted, so you can output any command through that tunnel. For example, it could be understand like VPN, but with less overhead. If you want to access your server via SSH, just run the command. If you have access, of course, on the server. Also, you can simplify the access to SSH if you create passwordless SSH keys. Or if you want to generate keys which ask for a password to open them, you could use SSH agent, which will, when you first use the key, ask for a password to open that key, and it will cache the password. So every time you run again a command that needs the access to the SSH keys, it will just get the password before it's cached. So how to set up SSH key access? You have to use the command ssh-keygen, which should create a private public key pair. So the public key you need to copy to your server, and the private key will remain on your local host, for example. If you lose your public key, it could be recreated via a private key, but if you lose access to a private key, then you lose completely the access to the key. rsync is a file program for Unix systems, and it uses a specific rsync algorithm, which provides a very fast method of bringing remote files into the system. So, for example, you want to copy your file from one server to another. If you use rsync, it will be much faster when copying via FTP or some other way. So you need SSH keys and rsync to start using Drush alias. Aliases is a way to define where your remote website is and how to access it. So if you have the complete setup, you could, for example, run a command on your local host that will be executed on your production server or development server remotely. For example, so you can find alias Drush as a PHP example file and edit it to tailor your needs. I will show later a complete and rather big Drush SC alias and explain how to edit it. You can also generate an alias file with this command, and you have several options where to store your alias files. So you can store it all in Drush folder, in your home.drush folder, or if you want to, for example, push your alias file in Git server, in a Git repository, you could also put it inside Drush, but then you will probably push some passwords also in your Git repository, which could be a security issue. But so here is a nice, very nice Drush alias file. This is the first part, second part, and the third part I'll show a little bit later. So you define where's your website, how could be accessed, where's your root, and you need to define the root relative to your server. So if your files are in home example /public HTML, you have to put that path here. You define where your SQL server is, and is it MySQL, is it PostgreSQL, is it MongoDB? You define this username password, where is your remote host, and also which is your SSH user which you will use to access the remote site. Here is a handy SSH options part where you could define your key. So which key will be used for that user, for that host to access the remote site. Later I will explain why this part is very important to use even Drush alias. Also, you can put here the path to Drush. Dump here is, for example, very useful if you frequently dump your SQL database. You can define a custom folder, and then when you run the SQL dump command, Drush won't ask you, or you don't have to say to Drush which folder you want to dump your SQL files. Also, you can define the path to your files folder. If you have a multi-site setup, you would define for each and every additional domain a new path for your files, so you don't override them accidentally. The second part is about defining how you access your SQL database. And here's the third part for SQL sync. You could sync changes directly from one SQL server to another. It unfortunately doesn't function very well each time. Because, for example, if you have your development snapshot on your website, and which, for example, you finish the phase 1 for a website and it's launched, and you continue development, if you sync your SQL database from your development site to the production site, you will overwrite some new content that your client has already added. It could be used, for example, when you have your development site on your local host, and you have a staging server which the client will access and see the development phase of your website. Then you could very easily use SQL sync, because then it's not important if your SQL database is overwritten or not. It doesn't have any new content, any data that needs to be saved. So when you have this complete setup done, You can then run commands. For example, Drush at remote areas that we defined on the beginning of our alias file, status. This command will tell Drush which remote site to connect, with which SSH username, which key, and output status of it. So it will connect to the server, run the command, output on your local host, the result of that command, and the connection to that server. Also, for example, you can use Drush Sync to sync files from one server to another. The complete files folder. If you run Drush at remote SSH, it will automatically open an SSH session to your remote site. For example, if you resync your theme files to the remote website, but caching is enabled, then all your changes won't be available. Then you can run Drush at remote areas, clear cache all, and all your theme cache will be cleared on the remote site. You can see on the remote site all the differences. Of course, you can run Drush site up on your remote site, so Drush at remote areas up, and you will remotely update your Drupal or its modules. You could also output all your available site areas with Drush SA. So you could see which site areas have you already configured. For example, for one website in Drush areas, you could define several aliases. For example, you have one example.com website. You have it your local version, which will be at site alias. You have your development version somewhere else, which will be at dev alias, for example, and you have a staging server, staging version of your website, which could be accessed by client to monitor your development, for example. And so you could define free aliases for the website and to push changes from your local site to dev site or production site. So some Drush use cases. These all commands could be run with at remote areas or without. So you could run them all on your local machine or on the remote website. Drush cache, will clear all the cache. You could remotely locally disable the preprocess of CSS5 and JavaScript caching. Enable disable maintenance mode. So set is short for variable set. With Drush variable get or get, you will see a list of available variables which you can then edit with set. So set another value for that. For example, you can change the site name easily and not use the browser for it. And then another example, you could use Drush to quickly set up a website in a local host. For example, you want to test the new Kickstart distribution. You just fire up these two commands. For example, Drush to build a Kickstart. It will download the Kickstart distribution, unpack it, so expand the archive, and with Drush SI, for example, Drush SI Kickstart with defined database and site name, it will install the Drush Kickstart, the Drupal Kickstart distribution, and you will have it set up and you can work on it. Also, there are some Drush flags. You could query updates for any security updates. So you can only install security updates. So no new version or security. You can skip update in Drupal core, or you can update on one module or all modules. Also, there's a handy block flag for Drush. you're using a country module, which has a bug that's specific to a project. You patch that bug, but it won't enter that version, a stable version of this module for who knows how long. You will lock it to a version of that module. So every time you run Drush up, it will skip that module. It won't ask you to update it. And also this log file that will be created by this command could be pushed to your repository. So for example, when two or three developers are working on the same website and access the same repository, you patch the module, you add the log file to your Git repository, and it will be synced for every developer, so you won't have an issue when some of the developer will decides to update some modules. It won't be, your changes won't be overwritten. And every time you run the Drush up command, you can create a backup of your module or complete Drupal install. And you could easily restore that archive if you need for it. What if you want to push and sync your changes from development side to the production side? The so-called traditional way would be to export your database and import it on the destination environment, then copy all your files via FTP, for example, to the production environment, change your settings file, and you just lost around 15 or 20 minutes. It's much easier to create your Drush database file and run these two commands and you're fully set up. So you transfer all your changes, all your files to the production side. Rsync is also specific that it won't overwrite the files if they are the same. So you won't transfer the same file again and again on the production side. It will only transfer the change files. Here is also how to create and restore a complete backup of your Drupal site. This command will create a compressed archive of your complete site with files folder also included. You could exclude it, of course. You could exclude some directories, for example, if you don't want to add to the archive the Git folder, .git. You could also add a complete list of excluded files and folders. And you could restore with one command the whole archive. Also very handy is to manage users via Drush. For example, you want to see some information about your user and to create another user. Or you have a user that tried one too many times to log in with the wrong password. You could easily reset his password or empty the database with the blocked IP addresses. You could also access the watchdog list. The watchdog dash list will output what message type and security levels can you see in your log files, and just see that those, so filtered out. Of course, you could use the dash dash tail if you want in real time to see what's happening with your website. So it will output changes in your log file as soon as they happen. So you don't have to, for example, open the recent log page and hit every time F5 or refresh to see the new entries in your log files. If you want to, for example, create a child team, start with a new team, and use a base team. This is very handy for front-enders. So you can use Drush VM list. So you could use Drush DL, for example, Zen, enable Zen team, clear all cache, so your Zen team will be completely enable the function, and then use Drush then name of your child team, machine name of your child team. For example, you don't want to use the right to left CSS files, and you want to add some description. With this one command, you copied all of the standard files that you need for a child team. You edited all the configuration files, and you just need to fire up your text editor or what you use to edit CSS files and PHP files. Also, Mothership basically has support for Drush commands, and Omega also. Omega 4 has better support for Drush than Omega 3. For example, you want to make a list of all the modules that you have enabled on your website. You could easily output a list. You can put that list in a TXT file, copy it to another server, and import that TXT file and enable all the modules that have been enabled on another site. For example, this could be useful when you experiment with modules and you leave many module files in your installation. You could also output a list of disabled modules, and you could easily know which one you want to delete, or you don't want to push them in a Git repository, remove from Git repository. And this is a very interesting Drush one-liner. You can define, for example, make me stuff alias. And this command, when you enter your Drush folder, run make me stuff, and it will generate some. And it needs around 2 seconds to do this. And if you could do this from a browser, you could do much more. And here are some. You can find more information. So the main Drush project page, the Drush main site. Also, I would recommend this book if you like to read ebooks or hard copy books. It was printed in April 2012. Some of the parts are already outdated, but it could be a very useful reference. Just for some basics. Do you have any questions?
There's a question about okay, you can use Drush in the server, but the web server usually runs in the name of another user, but you use for login in the site, I see. So what's your best practice for this? Of course, we want SSH to the box include, okay. Then what's the best practice? Maybe we can play with the group permissions, we can put the both web server and the user who SSH to the server. So that's the question, that what's your best practice for this?
In this case, I would use sudo PHP. So you have a user which has the ownership of that folder where the files are, and the PHP is run as that user.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, then that's it.
Yes,
yeah.
and you don't.
There can be such situation where you issue CCO and it says it's not possible to deal with the CSS and the JSON files.
Yes, you don't have permission on this file.
Exactly. Yeah.
That could be also a solution. Or yes, so because PHP would be the best in this case. And also you don't need to have root access to the server.
Yeah.
So you could use example user, for example site, and you create SSH key, which will be copied on the website, on the web server. So you can have for each website on the server a different key, a different user. And you define a Drush alias file, and you automatically choose which connection, which user, which SSH key does it need to access that. Okay,
thank you.
Any questions?
Okay, with Drush and multi-site, sure what Drush actually means by multi-site. Is it the standard Drupal site, so blah, 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 or is it
Yes,
different
it's
Drupal?
the standard Drupal site. So if you have site sold example 1, example 2,
Yeah.
example 3, you just enter the site sold example 1, and you will run the Drush command on that site.
Yeah, it enters the directory because of
Yes.
the default site. Also, I never got that from any of the stuff there.
Okay.
Yes, I have one question. It's possible to run a batch procedure under custom model.
Well, it is possible to run Drush with cron, if you know about that.
Yeah.
Or, yes. You could, for example, define a cron job to run Drush CC every 2 hours.
But run a single batch procedure that could be run through a browser. Okay. It's not possible to do it through the Drush. Maybe just have a custom model.
Drush is a command line, so
No, I know that it's not possible to run through browser, but if it's possible that I could run the same thing that's run as a batch procedure in a browser.
yes, you could. You could define it. For example, you could run Drush cron to fire the cron on the first one. You could use that, or several model adds additional features to Drush, or you could write your own custom model.
So I'm talking about the custom modules, because we have the modules that synchronize 700,000 nodes, and you have problem with these many.
Yes.
But we are running through the Chrome, of course, but I'm just asking if you have some.
Yes, it is possible to do it like that.